Welcome to More Than Miles, the podcast created to look deep into what it means to be a runner and endurance athlete. Our episodes are filled with real stories from real runners, elite to the everyday athlete. We bring together healthcare providers, athletes, and dive deep into topics that matter most to runners. I'm Dr. Mihevc Edwards, physical therapist, author, athlete, and complete coffee addict.
And I'm Dr. Kacy Seynders, physical therapist, athlete, and pun expert extraordinaire. We're so passionate about changing running culture to improve the health, wellness, and fulfillment of our endurance athlete community. And we hope that these conversations inspire you to focus on putting your health first so that performance and PRs can follow. Now let's get to the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome to More Than Miles. Today on the show, we have Olivia Baker. Olivia Baker is an 800-meter runner who competes for the Atlanta Track Club elite team, our home city. She has a long list of accolades in her short 5-year professional career. She's won gold in the mixed 4x400 meter relay at the 2019 World Relays, second in the 800 meter at the USATF Indoor Championships with an eventual 14th place finish at Worlds, and fifth in the 800 at the USA Track Team Trials last year. Olivia is also a well-rounded athlete. In addition to her physical health, she prioritizes her mental and emotional health, which shows up in her success on the track.
We had such a great conversation with Olivia today. Olivia is one of our favorites. She is really fun, really smart, and has so much good insight into mental health, physical health, and just the world around her. So we got to talk about the book club that she runs for the Atlanta Track Club. We got to talk about her quick stint working with circus arts, which is kind of crazy. And we also got to talk about how she stays healthy, not just from a physical standpoint, but also from a mental and emotional standpoint. And through that, we just had a really great conversation, and we really hope that you enjoy it as much as we did.
Kate and I have had the pleasure of working with Olivia for a little over a year now. And let me tell you, she's always smiling. She's always working really hard. And we're really excited to get to know her in a little bit of a different capacity today. So thank you so much for coming on today, Olivia. How are you?
Kate and Kacy, thank you for having me. I'm doing great. It's good to be here. I'm really grateful to be on this podcast.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. We'd been talking about it for quite some time, and especially after we were treating you and we get to know you, and you're just such a great person to be around. And I hear so many awesome things about you from other team members as well. So this is great. We always like to kind of jump in and at the beginning of our podcast and learn a little bit about your running story. And so what we really want to know is, tell us a little bit about your running story. How did you get started in the sport?
I've been running almost my entire life now. I got started when I was 8 years old. It was just kind of one of those things that my friends started doing, and so I started doing it as well. My first sport was actually soccer, but when some of my soccer friends moved to track and field, kind of that social aspect of why I did sports when I was really young shifted to a different sport, and I tried track and field. And so coming up the ranks, I joined Jaguar Track Club, started running at 8 years old. I ran all the way through elementary school, middle school, high school, eventually went to Stanford, where I focused in on the 800, and have been running that event primarily ever since, into now in my 5th year as a professional.
Sorry, I have a question that I need to ask that's not actually related to our questions, because you said over your bio, and I really love this fun fact of yours, that you spent 5 summers in elementary and middle school attending a camp where you developed schools in circus arts such as flying, trapeze, and unicycling. So I think I need to ask about the trapeze and the unicycling before we continue on this running journey, because I have to know.
Questions that need answers.
Yes.
Yes. It was called Independent Lake Camp, and it's a sleepaway camp, the first sleepaway camp that I ever went to as a kid. I want to say the first year I went there, it was either 4th or 5th grade. My parents sent me there for 2 weeks over the summer, and they had a bunch of different activities. But one of the things that was really unique about that camp was that they had a full circus, a literal circus that kids could be a part of. They would teach you all of the different circus arts, from juggling to flying trapeze, as I mentioned, mini tramp. Literally just about every circus art you could think of was taught there. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, you got to put on a show for all of your family and friends when they came to pick you up from camp. And for 5 years, I participated in the circus and unicycle arts that I learned. Did a little bit of, I don't know if you've heard of Little Diablo, a little like hourglass looking thing on a string that you throw into the air. Eventually, flying trapeze ended up being the place that I landed. I mean, with my athleticism and desire for the adrenaline of flying high in the air, it was a really good fit for me. And so that was what I did my last 3 years at camp. But I also learned how to unicycle. And somehow, surprisingly, I came out of camp not knowing how to juggle. But yeah, unicycling and flying trapeze were my favorite of the arts that I got to learn there.
That is incredible.
So Allie had to teach you how to juggle? I know Allie is working on juggling.
Oh my God.
Yes. She has been working on juggling at camp successfully. So she's now a talented juggler. And yes, she had been teaching us with these lemons that we had. Sadie bought the lemons. She had been learning, and they had both been kind of teaching us and practicing with the lemons. The lemons have since rotted, so we threw away the lemons. But juggling is still a thing that is going on in this house at camp.
Well, last time I was here, it was happening at the track too, but instead of lemons, there were lacrosse balls.
Yes. We've moved on to things that will not rot.
When life gives you lemons, juggle them, right? That's how it goes.
That's right.
Olivia, you might be the most interesting person I've ever met.
I think she is.
Seriously, I can't even believe this circus stuff. I mean, there's so many other things on my list that I think about, and when I think about you, and I'm always so impressed at all the different things you're doing, but I had no idea about the circus.
Yeah, it was a fun time, and definitely a set of skills to pull out at a cocktail party somewhere. If they ever have a unicycle at a cocktail party.
They might, you never know. It just depends on whose cocktail party it is.
That would be my kind of party, for sure.
Mine as well.
All right. So then let's move right from that to our other question, which is another kind of twist and turn in your interesting life is, so you have an interesting path when it comes to professional running. How did you make the decision to forego your medical school acceptance and pursue your running career?
It was a tough decision. But yeah, in the pandemic in 2020, I went ahead and applied to medical school. It was a really convenient time to do so because a lot of schools weren't having students on campus for interviews. So I could apply to more schools knowing that I wouldn't have to fly to the various locations in the middle of a track season to do my med school interviews. And I figured it would just be something, I really wanted to, after missing out on the 2020 or not making the Olympic team, it was something I really wanted to truly consider. And I think that the decision mostly came down to the fact that I know I can make it back to medical school. Getting in once has given me a lot of confidence to know that if I retake my tests, I know that I can do it again. It might be a longer path to get back there, but in the end, if it ends up being something that I really want to do and come back to, and I believe that it is, I'll be able to do that. Whereas at some point, I'm going to reach my physical peak in track, and the window for doing that is a lot shorter. And track and field is a sport that I still have a lot of passion for, a lot of fire for, a lot of desire to see what that full potential is. And the idea of walking away from the sport without seeing that all the way through was an even harder reality for me than walking away from medical school at the time.
Yeah. I think you'd make a great doctor, a great physician.
Thank you. I hope so.
Yeah,
I really think so too.
I think you would, just your compassion and your empathy and your quiet. You're always kind of listening to everybody, and you're not the kind of person to cut them off or butt in. You're always listening. And then when you speak, it has a lot of gravity. And I've noticed that even just in the interactions with you and the team. And I think that that's such an important skill when it comes to being a healthcare provider, is that ability to listen and hear. And I think that you have that. And I don't think you can teach it. That's something you can't teach. So you definitely have that. And I look forward to seeing that future someday if that's what you choose.
Thank you. I appreciate that from from two great healthcare providers to one future one. It means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and considering you'll actually get to interview this time, assuming, no subsequent pandemic, and you'll interview so well, and schools will pick up on that. So I have no doubt as well.
Yeah, that's really great.
Thank you. Thank you.
So remind me a little bit about the timeline. Okay, so we had 2020, decided to pursue running career, and then you came to Atlanta early last year, right? Or beginning of the season last year. Is that correct?
Yes. I transitioned to Atlanta in September of 2021 and then started running for them. My first race with the track club. Actually, technically, it was in December. It was the club cross country championships. But my first track race was in January of 2022.
Okay, got it. So why Atlanta? Tell us a little bit about that decision.
A lot of things. One, the coaches, the Begleys. I had talked to them in the past about potentially joining Atlanta Track Club, and had ultimately at the time decided to stay where I was. But I remember one of the things I remembered about them was that they were just so genuine and compassionate about running, about the athletes that they trained. They really were so open with me. I'm the type of person who asks a lot of questions, and they had answers to all of my questions, running and even life related, even as I was sitting on the phone with them the second time around trying to decide whether I was going to come to Atlanta or go to med school. They really helped me through that process as well, and they didn't try to push me one way or the other. They really encouraged me to do what was best for me. The third thing was that they really believe in me. They really believe that I can be one of the best in the world at this sport by the end of my career. And it meant a lot to me that they believed so much in me. And then in addition to that, I spent a lot of time talking to Allie, to Yolanda, and they just really made me feel like this was a place where I could be at home. I told you I love the coaches. I really liked the environment that they had going in Atlanta. Of course, from afar, I could see the results that the team was producing and see that they were really on the rise. And it really made me want to be a part of something even bigger than myself. And then when I arrived, even the bonus of seeing how connected this club is to the Atlanta community, the many ways in which they give back, the ways that the staff at the club are passionate about fitness and about building community and making that community healthier. It just aligned with a lot of the ways that I want to give back in the community as well. So I felt like this club was a perfect fit.
I agree. I think it is pretty great how everyone's involved in the community and really trying to, put themselves out there to make the sport of running something that can be more than just running. So I think that's great. One of the things and one of the roles that you have at the track club is the book club, which you and I talk about almost every time I see you. Because we're both apparently nerdy book lovers. Tell us a little bit about how you started the book club or how you got that role in the track club and about what you're doing with it.
It has been actually a really fun project. When I got to Atlanta Track Club, I interviewed with Rich and Jay, the CEO and the head of marketing. And a lot of the things they had asked me about were kind of surrounded around, what are you qualified to do, for lack of a better word? Because my degree is in human biology. I really don't have any experience in marketing or events or some of the main functions that the club does outside of running, of course. So as we dug back through my resume and some of the things I've been a part of, one of the things that stood out was that I had a book club. Katora and I had a book club called Run, Jump, Read that we ran through Instagram for the 3 years I spent running professionally prior to coming to Atlanta Track Club. So that was one area where I had some experience. Atlanta Track Club was looking to start a book club, and it kind of fit perfectly. I had the experience. I like to read, and it was a project that I was equipped to get off the ground. And so in November of 2021, we did kind of a test run with our first book. It was A Beautiful Work in Progress by Myrna Valerio. And then we really launched it in January of 2022. And since then, it has been going well. Every week we read running related books. It's called Runners Who Read. And every week I post a blog with some discussion questions via our Facebook page that members respond to. And then at the end of the month, we try, and we've been pretty successful so far. The book we're reading now is the 12th book of the book club. We've taken a month or two off here or there to accommodate my racing schedule, but this book is the 12th book, and we have interviewed 7 of the authors whose books we've read in Runners Who Read. So it's a really fun job. I enjoy writing the blogs and leading the discussion. It's a fun time, as you two can attest to, kind of getting to see the other side of the mic as well. That has been a huge learning curve, but a rewarding and fun experience throughout the past year. It's a cool project, something I really enjoy doing.
Oh yeah, it sounds
so
like
cool.
it. And do you have an author that you just really absolutely loved outside of, not only did you really enjoy their book, but when you kind of got to meet them and interview them, you really just thought, wow, this person is so great?
Yes, it was definitely Alexi Pappas. We read Bravey. And
I
then
love that book so
talking
much.
to her,
I've read it 3 times.
I read it too. It's so good.
It is a great book. It was really, really motivating, really inspiring. And then talking to her, it was certainly one of the most unique interviews I've ever done. She's just so charismatic. It was a fun conversation. She actually flipped a couple of questions on me, which was fascinating as an interviewer. You don't always see that coming. Her mentality was really such that anything she puts her mind to, and truly, truly anything she puts her mind to, she can do, and she gets it done. And she finds a way to do it. And she has a way of encouraging and inspiring others that they can do that too. And I know that that's kind of a cliche, but when I spoke with Alexi Pappas, I really felt that in my heart. And getting to break down the ways that she's doing that, from being an author and a runner and a filmmaker, she truly exemplifies that principle.
Yeah, I love her writing so much because it's so simple. And I mean, almost like you think maybe someone in elementary or middle school wrote it, because it's just very, very simple, but she packs so much meaning into it, and just the way she arranges her words and the way she says things. And I love, love, love her writing and poetry style. It's really, really impactful work that she's doing for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I actually, for that book, I accidentally, because I buy my books through Apple Books, and I accidentally got the audio version instead of the written version. I prefer the written version so that I can physically take notes on my iPad while I'm reading about things that I want to go back to when I write my blog posts. But I'll tell you, it was the best mistake I've ever made, because listening to her voice on the audio version just gave the book a whole different life that I probably would not have read into it just reading the words on the page.
Yeah. And speaking of books, I just, it came here a while ago, but I finally went and got it from the mailroom today, is Lauren Fleshman's book. Is this on the list? Because I think this is going to get me to join the book club finally.
Isn't that what you're reading right now, Olivia?
It is not what I'm reading for book club right now. We do have a copy. We have 2 copies in our house at camp that have been floating around, and people have been picking it up and putting it down and reading it. But yes, to answer your question, Kacy, it is on our book club. It is set to be a book club book in the coming months. So very, very, very soon.
All right, I'm in it. Let's do it.
I know. I've been telling Olivia I was going to join the book club for months, and I just haven't done it yet, because every time we talk, I think, oh, I want to read that book. I'm going to read that book. And we have great conversations, and I still haven't joined the book club either.
Kate has 4 companies and a child and a husband, and she's got a lot going on.
But I fly a lot and I read on the plane, so it makes sense. I don't like to look at the screens, and I don't like to hear all the noise. So I just kind of read a book and tune out. So I read 2 or 3 books a month. I just have to get it together to sign up for the book club. Maybe someone could do it for me.
Yes, I'll put I'll add your email to the email list.
Thanks, Livia. I didn't mean you necessarily, but thank you. So funny.
So we can kind of pivot back to running here. You had such a great year last year, and it was so fun to watch. I kind of watched from indoor all the way through outdoor, breaking 2 minutes 800, not once, but several times for the first time, competing and being competitive in the Diamond League, 5th at the US track team trials. When you reflect on that year, what did you learn, and do you feel proud of it? Are you still hungry? How did last year leave you?
I think lessons from last year. I think the initial feeling was, I was pretty proud of it. I felt like it was a really good year. I feel like I gave everything I had on the track that year, and I don't have very many regrets about it. But yeah, I mean, a few things I learned from the past year. Some were really good things. Like, one thing I learned about myself is that I'm really good at bouncing back. I mean, something that doesn't get talked about too much in track are the bad races. I had 3 of them last year, 3 really, really bad ones, to be honest. Like 3 ones where I ran like 2:05 or worse. But every single time, regardless of when it happened, one of which was 10 days before US Champs, I always bounced back. And that was something that I was really proud of, not letting the bad races shake my confidence throughout the course of the season. And so I think that going into next season, that confidence, just knowing, being confident and being poured into by my coaches saying, hey, regardless of how you race, we know that you are fit, and being able to stand on that, I think will help me be even more confident going into next season. Another thing that I learned is there's some practical things as well involved, like traveling. This was the first year I traveled to 6 different countries this year. And sometimes it was a real question mark as to whether I was going to be able to race well a day or two after getting off of a plane that just, sitting on a plane for 12, 13 hours. And I think that the biggest tip I learned there was, if you stay awake the entire first day, that you can adjust to the time zone and run well. So I'd say that was the biggest piece of practical advice that I learned this year from running. So I gave one like kind of mental, psychological, one physical, practical. Am I missing a category?
No,
I guess one great. Relational.
Yeah.
I learned you can come at the 800 in so many different ways. I think one thing people don't really know too much about last year is that Allie and I ran almost exactly the same time. I ran 1:58:05. I think she ran 1:58:09. And we actually barely trained with each other the entire year, just because we are such different types of runners. Like, she's a little more 8:15. I'm a little bit more 4:08. But regardless of, our coach did a really good job of training us to our strengths and making sure that we were both at our best. And then further, I think we did a really good job of balancing, being teammates, knowing that we were going to be some of each other's top competition every time we stepped on the track, but also being competitors during those 2 minutes thereabouts on the track, and then being teammates off of the track. The second that the gun went off, we were competitors, but the second that we both crossed the finish line, we were teammates again. And I think that can be a really hard thing to negotiate when you have people who are really close, when you just know that, I mean, this year we were 4th and 5th, and this year 4th place, because we have the wild card in the 800, 4th place will get a spot on the team. And, going into this year, knowing that we could have the potential to knock each other off of a team is a scary thing. But I think we learned last year that we can lift each other up and manage that in a way such that it benefits both of us as competitors and as teammates.
How do you do that, Olivia? How do you do that from practice to practice or competition to competition, or just, for instance, this week and this month while you're at training camp, and you're living together? So how does that work exactly?
Well, I think it works in part by building that bond kind of in friendship, hanging out, going on car rides, doing a little carpool karaoke, singing together. But also, being there for each other, sharing reps in practice when we can. And that's not just us. It's the entire team as well. That's why camp is so effective, because we're all living in the same house. We're all building these bonds of friendship that will carry with us, that will hopefully be strong enough to carry with us regardless of what happens when we're competitors on the track. And in some ways that can be tough, especially when, now we're just starting to transition, but especially in the fall when, for me, I'm getting my butt kicked every practice. And I know it's good for me. I need to, but that type of thing can also be hard on your confidence, because you're like, oh man, if I'm getting beaten every practice, how am I gonna win in a race? But I think, like I said, one of the things mentally that I carried with me last year was that regardless of how I race, and this extends to practice too, regardless of what things look like in practice, I know that when I step on the line to race, I can have that confidence that I'm going to run well. I think one of the keys to that is also avoiding comparison. Like we're all different runners. We all have different strengths. And when we use those strengths, rather than clinging to them, when we share them in a sense with each other, me pulling a little bit more weight on the speed end, Allie pulling a little bit more weight on the distance end, it only makes all of us better. And then towards the end of the season, when one person succeeds, in a sense, all of us have succeeded because we all played a role in making each other better. And so whether I make the team or not, I'm still happy when my teammates make the team, because I know that I played a small part in that at practice when I was grinding to pull that one rep through the wind that day, or when we were picking each other up off of the ground after a really hard practice. I think that is a part of it as well.
So, Olivia, you have such a great outlook and talking about things in terms of not comparing yourself to others and being able to hold on to that confidence. Those are really great qualities, and those are really strong mental qualities that you have as an athlete. Have you had to work on that? Are there any strategies that you've used in the past to build that kind of strong mental capacity, or how did you become this way?
Yeah, well, I'm going to take notes over here.
I have worked with a sports psychologist since I was a sophomore or junior in high school. I was introduced to my first sports psychologist. Her name was Lonnie Lawrence. She's now a sports psychologist with the New York Giants. But at the time, she traveled with us on the first U.S. team I made, the World Youth Team that competed in Ukraine in 2013. And I remember she really helped me talk through those anxieties and those fears that I had. And I worked with her all the way up through college until she's, of course, transitioned to the Giants. And I have a new sports psychologist. But that has been, I will hammer home to anyone the benefit of seeing a psychologist, seeing a therapist, working on your mental game. That has been incredibly beneficial to me. And I have to thank Dr. Lonnie Lawrence and also my current sports psychologist, Dr. Chris Stanley, who have helped me every step of the way get from a kid who was really talented but had so much anxiety around a fear of losing to the place that I am today, where I'm confident. I'm not afraid of, I'm not afraid of, no longer afraid of losing, and able to focus on myself and not compare myself to others. So
Wow. I'm
yeah,
so glad.
that's truly where it comes from.
I'm so glad you said that and you're so open about it, because that's one of the number one things I try to get my athletes to do when they start kind of going down that spiral and get into that bad mental space. I think it can be so valuable. And I think a lot of people still have some kind of stigma around whether or not to see a sports psychologist or or a psychologist in general. And it's really helpful that you're so open about it, because I do think it can make a huge difference in the way that you compete and live.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I would recommend it to anybody, and encourage anybody to ask me about it if they have questions, because yeah, it has been one of the biggest benefits to my running career.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you need every little edge you can get in the 800. I mean, these races are being decided by half a second sometimes, and it's the margin for error is so thin. So any kind of tool you can have in your toolbox, I'm sure is necessary in the event that you run.
Absolutely.
So kind of coming back up onto that tool in your toolbox that Kacy said, do you have any specific superstitions or pre-race routines or things that you do in order to keep you in the right mindset?
Not a ton. I think that it's important to have a routine that has a balance of flexibility. Like I've been honing my routine, and I keep this, I guess part of what I do is I keep this going list of things that matter and things that don't on the day of a race. And I constantly am going back and forth and moving things back and forth across that list. Does this matter? Does that matter? Did this matter? Did this make a difference in the outcome of the race? And I find that what I have found over the years is that most things don't really matter.
I love that. That is the best.
Whether I had pancakes for breakfast or oatmeal, the thing that matters is that I ate something. What I ate is in the category of it doesn't really matter for me. I mean, I like to have oatmeal personally. That's my preference. But if I can't have oatmeal, I'm not really sweating it. And so I guess that's what I mean by flexibility in my routine, is that I don't want to be so rigid that, I have to eat the same thing for breakfast every race day. But I want it to be rigid enough that I'm like, okay, I don't need to eat the same thing, but I need to eat something, and make sure that eating something is part of my routine in the morning of a race, whatever that something is. And so that's kind of what my routine looks like, is I eat something in the morning. I think most of our races are midday. So I'd say usually I eat something in the morning for breakfast, and then I eat something again. The last time I'll eat is 3 to 4 hours before the race. I do the same warm up for every race. So maybe that's the most rigid part of my pre-race routine. I spend a little bit of time in prayer. That's probably a rigid one too. Usually within the 3 hours, sometime between that last meal and the actual race going off. I just pray about releasing the outcome to God, and just praying that whatever the outcome is, that it would glorify Him. That's usually my prayer on race day. And then the rest of the time is just spent going over, kind of visualizing, going over in my head. Another skill I learned from my sports psychologist, visualizing and how I'm going to execute my race, and making sure that I do that, focus on the things that I can control. Because I mean, a lot of things are going to happen in the race, but if I visualize what I'm going to do, regardless of the things that happen in the race, I've found that to be really helpful. And that'll be the thing that's going through my head on repeat throughout my entire warm up, with every drill that I do, with every stretch that I do. That's what I'm thinking about. And then it's time to race.
I love that. It's a nice, well-rounded warm-up routine, I would say.
Yeah. And I love your flexibility and just the way you're framing everything. I think so many people could learn from your outlook and how you approach things. And I just love listening to it because it's what a healthy athlete should actually sound like and look like, is being able to recognize that things are not going to go perfectly. It cannot be rigid because the world is not rigid, and, things happen. But then knowing that within that, you can find quiet within the chaos, if you're grounded in yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's what makes you good, Miss Olivia.
Thank you.
So looking ahead to the 2023 season, how are you looking to build on last year? What are you looking forward to? All that good stuff.
Ooh, okay. That's a great question. I'll start with the building part. The main thing I'm looking to build is my strength, endurance specifically. Well, physical strength too. We've started lifting more in the weight room, thanks to you all. So,
I know Olivia's been crushing it. Olivia, let's just say she lifts a lot of weight, and it's impressive.
Well, thank you. I mean, I know you all played a huge role in putting together our weightlifting routine, and I'm excited to see when we start racing the dividends that pays off. When we start to race, I've already begun to feel more powerful and to see the power in my stride and practice. Coach actually commented on it the other day when we were running 200s, and I was like, yeah, I've got a little more muscle on me this year.
Well, and everyone says that there's nobody that can catch you right off the line. So not only does the coach notice, but all your teammates are like, holy crap, Olivia's fast off the line.
Yeah, it has come with some explosiveness too. I'm really excited about both the physical or the muscular strength and the endurance that we've been building this fall. And I'm looking to build off of last fall in both of those categories, because I think last year was my first year really doing a solid block of base work. And I know that base work is one of those things that grows over years. So I'm looking forward to building off of that. I think I'll see the benefits of racing in that, the muscular strength as well. And then the second part of that question was, what am I looking forward to? I am looking forward to a lot of things, but outside of just racing, I think that it's going to be a really fun year. I'm looking forward to all of the places that I'm going to get to go. I think I mentioned I visited 6 new countries last year. I'm hoping to break that number, to beat that number this year. Get to go to a bunch more cool places to do the thing that I love. I'm looking forward to running faster times, of course. I think that the last year was just the start, and I have a lot faster times in the tank going into this year. And I'm excited. I think that last year set me up. Running so well at the end of the year has set me up to get into some bigger races earlier on this year. So I think that looking ahead, you'll see me in more races on the Diamond League circuit during outdoor season. I can already say during indoor season, I've gotten into a few gold level races. So you'll see me in some of the bigger races indoor season too, which will be fun because I love indoor season. Being a Northeaster, I love the indoor season. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good year, a fast year, and a fun year.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really excited too. There was a couple times last season I go to bed really early that I set my alarm for like 11 p.m., like going to bed at 9 and then waking up at 11 p.m. to watch you guys race, particularly like the semifinals that you were in. So looking forward to another year of doing that because I'm not going to stay up until 11.
That's why we just have to record it.
That's true, but it's more fun to see it live. I don't want to wait.
Yeah, and what if you don't want to accidentally see the results,
Exactly.
You might wake up and have a notification on your phone. It's like, oh no, it already happened.
You know what? That is impossible. I'm going to set notifications on my phone. Like if Olivia Baker does anything amazing, you need to send me a push notification. I need to know right away.
Can you do that?
No, but I'm going to speak to Apple. I'm going to figure this out.
Oh, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Of course you believed me.
Oh, that's so dumb. Okay, great. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the US is so deep in the 800, and you are definitely part of that depth, right up there with the best of them. And we're so lucky to have you here in Atlanta.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Olivia. This has been really fun, and it's been nice to get more insight and kind of get to know you a little bit better in a different way.
Thank you. Yeah, this was a really fun podcast to be on. Thank you all for having me. Yeah, thanks again. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, we'll see you on the track.
Thank you so much for listening today. We are so happy that you're here. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with a friend. Even better, share it on social media, because sharing is caring. And the more people we can reach, the better.
Another way you can help us out is by leaving a review on Spotify or Apple Podcast. So give us those 5 stars and tell us how awesome we are. Really, we love to hear how awesome we are. To support our work financially, you can also join our Patreon squad at patreon.com/morethanmiles, where for a few dollars a month, you can help us keep the show going and growing. This season is sponsored by Fast Bananas. Why buy multiple subscriptions made for everyone when you can have one specifically crafted for runners? Fast Bananas has online yoga classes, strength training programs, meditations, recipes, communities to ask questions, and so much more. Check out Fast Bananas at fastbananas.com or follow them on Instagram at fastbananasrun. Don't forget that training is so much more than miles.